We're doing it. The boys are back. We're back on Zoom.
The boys are back in town.
For another installment of the world's number one podcast, Unlimited. The world's number one limiting belief breaking podcast, Unlimited. Just a little reminder for everybody who's listening this week as to the reason why the podcast is called Unlimited. It's because we want to unlimit your mind. The most important tool that you have, your mind. We want to unlimit that from all of the shackles that society's conditioning has subjected it to. So, yeah, Leigh, we're back.
Welcome back.
We're back on Zoom. The last couple of podcasts that we had were in person, and by the time this one comes out, we would have had multiple guests in a row now, and that was from our little stint in Australia, and there's going to be plenty of more really cool guests coming up in the next little while as we go on our drum roll. Go on. World tour.
Yeah.
As we go on the world tour. And we're gearing up and we're preparing right now for the world tour, the 101 world tour. We're taking the brand global. We're taking ourselves global for the first time together. We've done multiple things overseas individually, but now Leigh and I are going back towards the homeland, towards the home countries of Ireland, of the UK, England for Leigh, and we're going to be doing Amsterdam, Barcelona. Already done some stuff here in Indonesia, so it's gearing up nicely. Leigh, are you excited for the world tour and what we're about to share with everybody?
I am very excited, mate. I think it's one thing seeing it online. We've got a global audience online, but it's another thing seeing this stuff in person and actually having boots on the streets and seeing how it's kind of received in these countries. So I'm very excited. Very, very excited. I think a really cool thing is we have a good understanding of the mindset in these countries, which is cool. It's a little bit different sometimes, say someone who's born in Australia goes to the UK, or someone's born in America goes to Europe and the UK. They can often be a little bit out of touch with where everybody's at with their mindset. But I think us being there and having experience living other places in the world just makes for a really unique package. And that's why I'm so excited to bring that to Europe and the UK. And like I always say, the aim of the game is awareness, right? We have so much awareness around the mindset of all around the globe. It's just going to be really powerful. I'm very excited.
Yeah, well, more of the same isn't going to get people new results. And a lot of the time they're only really people in the country that they're in, most of the time only have access to the people who are teaching in the country that they're in. And a lot of the time the information is shared from a limited place, and I mean that in the nicest possible way. And we're coming over with a brand new perspective from Australia, where it's a very affluent country. There's a lot of abundance. Think about Henry, who we just had on the podcast. He's a young kid in Melbourne charging $300 plus for a haircut. That stuff is unheard of. Some of the best hairdressers on the planet are in the UK delivering education, and they're charging 10 times less than he is. And to me, that is just mind-blowing. I just can't wrap my head around that whatsoever. I just can't wrap my head around it.
This is one for the listeners as well. Anybody listening, if you know what this is, who do you reckon charges the most in the UK for a quality men's haircut? You reckon it's like £50? £60 maybe? Even then, that's probably not, on equate that back to our numbers, it's not that big. Like we're It's 150 minimum with us. Like Henry, it's 300 minimum. It's crazy. But I understand that markets are different. And that's what, like what you said, I think it's really cool that we're bringing our perspective, because, I double that up and say the information that you get from your own country comes with bias. It does come from limits, but the limits come from bias as well. And bias is basically just the stories and the patterns that you've grown up with. So, this is going to be really interesting. And yes, there are bigger populations in the UK and Europe, but there's also still a lot of money. Like England, Britain is a very wealthy place. We talk about Australia being affluent, but Britain is as well. There's a lot of money there. There are some extremely wealthy people in the UK, so it can be done. Like the Stephen Bartletts of the world. It comes from my hometown, a kid that essentially what he says comes from nothing to now being mega rich. So it can be done. The money's there. The big thing is, can we break down our conditioning and our belief cycles and our patterns to dream up a new way and a new life? I think it's 100% possible. Coming from where we've come from, you've come from a very small town. I've come from what's like a smaller city. Again, both places probably have a working class mindset, a mindset that doesn't come from like anything's possible in abundance. I think we're living proof that, great things are possible for most people. It's about, can you rewire your mind and take a look at your conditioning and your patterns and dream up a new way to do it. And that's what's going to be so powerful about our knowledge and what we bring to these people. Because look, we have a coaching group and we have discovery calls for people all over the world. And the big factor when we talk to people from the UK and Europe is money. Like, it always comes back to the money. They got loads of motivation. They got loads of grit. They're willing to do hard work and sacrifice and push and provide and all this stuff. But the limiting factor is money. And even through the conversations, I think it is a limiting belief. It's a limiting belief. Even to the point where some people will say they actually don't even want to charge high ticket prices because of the beliefs are so limited. So that's what the World Tour is all about. We're going to go in and try and dissolve some of those limiting beliefs. Wow.
Hey. And I want to just add to what you said there, and it's not always about pricing either. It's not always about pricing, it's about possibility. And like, for me, it's when I see somebody with a high price point, it's more about like, what has that person had to do in order to get to that price? What has that person, who has that person had to sorry, let me get my words. Who has that person had to become, or like, who have they had to become in order to do that? It's not necessarily about the price point. It's about the possibility. And like, I just see like there's such a limitation. It's not just in the UK and Ireland. It's in the hair industry at large. There's a lot of limits and boxes around what can be done and what can't be done. And if we just were to look outside of the hair industry for a minute and look at other things that are happening in the world and other ways of approaching stuff and bring a little bit of that to it, I think we're able to set ourselves up for a lot more possibility. And with a lot more possibility comes a lot more potential and joy, actually. And, we look at our business now and we take all of our advice from people who aren't in the space that we're in. So for us now, I'm excited, but I'm also apprehensive about the tour, because I'm just thinking to myself, and not even apprehensive, I think I'm going back this time with a very different mindset, a very different mindset. And I'm open to hearing what's going on, but I'm not going to be too open to receiving a lot of advice from people unless it's actually in line with what it is that I believe in, my values. Because the advice that I've got in the hair industry so far has come from limitation. It hasn't come from possibility. It hasn't come from an abundant place. It's come from this is just what we do here in the hair industry. We don't charge people. Like, we're barbers, we don't make money, you know. We're hairdressers, we don't have a choice. Like, we're barbers, we do everything that our clients want us to do. You know, it's so fucking funny, man. I seen the Pissed Off Barber put up something this morning about like how clients expect us to act or whatever, and it's like, you know, it's a picture of a barber getting a call in the middle of the night and just like, hey bro, I'm going to jail tomorrow, like I need a fresh fade, like can you do it for me? It's like, yeah, no worries, because you're such a great client and I love cutting your hair, like let me get up out of bed. It's like on the clock on the wall is like 3 a.m. or something, and it's like it's just silly stuff, but like it's so representative though of a lot of people's reality, and you know, I think the conditioning where we're from, the conditioning around like success is like in the material. It's about what you have materially, not what you have, you know, spiritually, or what you have from a freedom perspective. It's all about like what you have materially, and it's funny because, you know, they'll have the money for all the clippers. You know, you see them with all the latest gear. Like, they'll have the scissors, they'll be able to buy the Mizutanis, they'll be able to buy the clippers, but they don't realise sometimes that is actually the trap that they're in. You know, they're keeping themselves in their own perpetual cycle, and like they'll sit back and wonder one day, why can't I do what I want to do, or why can't I go on holiday, or, you know, like I said before on podcasts, the worst time to try and feed yourself is when you're already hungry. You know, like be proactive about this. You know, the most important investment you can make in any tool is the tool of the mind. You know, so instead of investing in the next clipper, instead of investing in the new latest clipper foil shaver with a laser on it, invest in your mind, invest in your education, because it's in the mind that you'll see new possibilities. It's in the mind, it's in the expanded worldview that you'll start to actually join the dots. You'll start to add 2 and 2 together and realise, what if I do it this way? Or what if I try and do it this way? Or what if I just do less haircuts and charge more money? And another great example of it not being about the price point is the result that we just had with Matt, one of our coaching clients. It's not about the price. He's charging $60 and he made $100,000 extra in his business in the last year. So it's not all about getting to $100 a haircut. You know, it's not all about that.
Oh, 100%. I agree with that all the way through. And there's something that I've been thinking about lately, like my tolerance for like limited mindsets. Like, I just don't, at the moment, I'm in a period or a season of my life where I just don't want to be around it, and I don't even want to hear it. Like, and I know that can be ignorant sometimes, but my life is just one big experiment, right? I'm experimenting with just if you've got something like limiting or negative or that can't happen kind of energy, I just don't want to hear it. Because what would happen?
Nah, bro, you can't say that.
And this is uncommon belief or, unpopular opinion. What if you just thought, of course it's possible. Everything's possible. I'm just going to go offense, going in. Everything's possible. Now, is everything possible? No, I know that to be true, or I know that to be real. But what if we just walked the earth? It's like delusional in a sense. Someone would be like, oh, it's delusional. It's like, well, and what's the opposite? Like the opposite is just being limited, like, and just playing small like everybody else, and struggling and being the starving artist and not having freedom and options in my life. Like, that's the opposite. Now, having that mindset that, it's exactly like the podcast, having an unlimited mindset and unlimited perspective on the world. It's like having that unlimited perspective. Who knows what could happen? And we are living, walking proof of that. If you told me when I first started here, Leigh, you're going to be doing a world tour with your own company, I'd be like, nah, no way, not me. Like, what makes you think that's me? But moving through this world with that almost delusional, unlimited mindset of like, of course anything's possible. It's just about finding a way. What if we did that a bit more? What if people did that a bit more? I think that would be a really interesting world. And I think that's a great little switch. And that's an unpopular opinion. Because I can guarantee, I can already hear it in my head. People be like, nah, that's just not possible. People around my area don't pay that and blah, 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 blah. Well, maybe not. Or can we find a way? And, I've said this before, I'll say it again, nothing stays the same. Once upon a time, I remember when I was a kid, I was paying £6 for a haircut, and now haircuts are, $300 here in Melbourne. Who says what's not possible? And that is way more than inflation. We can't just leave that to inflation. £6 to $300 in like 20 years isn't inflation. Else everything in the supermarket would be $300 for an apple or something. That's not inflation. That's something has taken astronomical jumps in between time and someone's dreamed up a new way to do it. And that's the kind of mindset that I want to spread. It's like, and it only takes one person to do it before it becomes wildfire. Like once upon a time, barbers probably didn't think they could charge £25-30 in the UK, but they do. And I don't think it's down to inflation. I think it's down to something monumental happening and people dreaming up a new way, coming in with unlimited mindset and saying, you know what, let's do it this way. Let's do it this way. Because the money's out there. There's never been more money on the planet. Every day there's more money than there was yesterday. Money's fake at this point. There's another zero goes on that world money clock every day. It's wild.
Yeah. It's all just numbers and screens. Yeah. No, agreed. I think, one of the biggest things that stops people from really going after and chasing the outer boundaries of limitation is noise. There's almost too much noise. And it's not having the ability to quieten the noise is huge. Not quietening the noise is detrimental because we're just caught up in everybody else's limitations. I want expanders around me. I want people who are expanding me, not limiting me. I want people who are going to be receptive to the fact that things can be different, not holding on to how things are. And for the most part, in my experience, I have seen more people in the hair space holding on to how things are rather than being open to the expansiveness of what is possible and what's new. Because a lot of the time people make their own bed. They make their own bed, not in the literal sense, in the philosophical sense. And they just fight for their limitations, as Peter Crone would say. It's like, oh shit, I'm in it now, and I have to stay in it. So anything that threatens this safe way of me making just enough, I'm going to fight for that as my limitation. And it's sad, really. I put that on a post a couple of weeks ago. I think it may have been last week, about like people making just enough, and like just enough being the trap, and like just enough. I wasn't put on this planet to do just enough to get by and just enough to survive, and like,
well, that's so funny you say that. That was a piece of advice I got from my dad when I was young. Not even about having just enough, but doing just enough. He said to me, never be the guy that does just enough. Why? Because why? Because it makes you average. Everybody wants to do just enough. Never be the guy that does just enough. I believe I'm the same. I believe it's like, I don't know if we're here to do just enough.
I don't think so, bro. I think,
and
the very miracle of what's going on here,
galore in there.
like the very miracle of what's happening here in the world, like we don't know what this even is, you know. And why would we do just enough? And I think once it clicks, once we see something, we can't unsee it. Once we realize that, like, most of life is a construct, most of life is a matrix-driven construct, and like, not to go too conspiracy theory with it, like, take the conspiracy out of it and just look at it for objectively what it is. Most people's lives are run by a construct that is something that's made up, you know, by somebody else to take advantage of people to make money, whilst paying the majority of people just enough to make them feel okay. And I'm not here to feel okay. I'm not here to feel okay. I'm not here to feel okay. I'm here to feel great. And if I'm going to put any, you know, limitations on if there's going to be any limitations on me, it's going to be from myself, not from somebody else.
And they're conscious limitations, and they're limitations for a reason. And the scary thing about what you just said was, you know, culture and society has put, kind of in a way, made people believe in convictions around what they're doing. You know, so having just enough, or, you know, the way I look at this, since when was hair an industry, cutting hair, or a career or an industry for people that want just enough? Because that's essentially what we're saying. If we all just keep plodding along and going how we're doing, it's like, what we're saying is, what we believe is, and what our conviction is, that hair is for people that only need just, like, they only want just enough, or only need just enough. Who gets to say that? And that is scary, because if you build up convictions around that mindset, that is where you will always stay. And the conviction, in a sense, says that you think you know what's right. And for you to think you know what's right is to think you know what God thinks is right. That's a dangerous game to play. Because, again, I don't want to go too esoteric with this stuff, but when you really deep the psychology on it and how to think about it, who even know if God knows what's right? Because it depends on your definition of God. If this is God's version of getting to know itself, then God doesn't even know what's right. So it's a great mystery. So we come all the way back down to the small end of the funnel where we are, us as hair people. It's all made up. And again, it is a construct. You hit the nail on the head. It's a construct. So why don't we just treat it that way? Like, it doesn't have to stay the same. Let's just have a thesis on all these things. This is never a general thesis. We've done it like this till now. We made that up as well. Life is just about a bunch of decisions. We made all decisions to get to this point, and we can make new decisions to go in a different direction. Why don't we just treat it that way? Keep a thesis on it. Who knows? But I definitely don't think we should just be starving artists and just have enough and just get by and be at everybody else's beck and call. Like, what makes us different from anybody else or any other trade or industry or anything like that, or skill set? You know, like you were saying there about constructs, like anything outside of nature, I think is a construct. Like, really, when you really think about it, now I could be wrong on that. That could make a great conversation with someone who understands that deeply. But anything outside of nature, the natural law of things, could be a construct. And the only people I place in a place where there probably is a bit more demand and a bit more beck and call is healthcare. Like that, because it relates directly to the natural law of things. Like our health, how we are as beings, as well-functioning, healthy beings, relates directly to the natural law of the planet. So that there, I think, is a fantastic service and skill set to have available for everybody. Now, we all know that most countries don't have it available for everybody at any given time, which I think is ludicrous, because haircuts are available, way more available and easier to get for most people than high-level medical care at any given time for way cheaper, which is wild if you ask me, because it's a made-up thing. What's more important, a haircut or healthcare? Healthcare is way more important than a haircut. Yet the haircut is easier to get and it's cheaper. Surely shouldn't healthcare be easier to get and cheaper? Because it relates to the natural law of things? Anyway, outside of that, that's where we've got to be very careful. We've got to be careful we don't get stuck in our convictions and our dogmatic thinking, because when we're just making things up, who knows? Let's just have an unlimited mindset and keep believing and dreaming and be a little bit on the delusional side of anything's possible. Because there are people charging £10 for a haircut, and there's someone I know in New York charging $2,500 for a haircut, and there's everything in between. And who's right? Neither of them are right. It's just what they've chosen to believe.
Yeah. And if the healthcare versus the haircuts thing doesn't prove that everything's a construct, then I don't know what does, because somebody at some point just looked at it and thought, well, people are going to have to pay for this or they're going to die. So let's just charge them loads of money and they'll find a way to do it, and that will keep them in the construct. It's fucking sad when you deep it. It's sad.
And I say this in our 3-day course, I say it in the coaching group all the time. Why don't we flip that script?
Well, the only way to not get caught up in it being sad is to actually take the reins, take a bit of control in the constructs ourselves, and we have that power to do it. Like, yes, there's certain rules that we have to play the game by, but like just laying down and not doing anything about it, once we're consciously aware of it, is to choose to lose. You're choosing losing, and that's just what it is. And like, we can choose differently, and we can definitely live in a better way. And I just wrote some stuff down there while you're speaking, and this is some stuff maybe we can bring to some of the shows that we do. And we're going to stand on stages where there's going to be 10, 15, 20 different barbers in the room, all showing people how to do things the right way, but it's all different ways. So it's like, exactly, so who's right? And that's a great way to start. That's actually a great way to start it. It's like, the only person who's right in this room is the listener. Like, so the person who is listening to this information, and every single person is looking through their eyes and seeing something a little bit different here today. And if we're not critically thinking and using the information to apply it to our lives, the context of our own lives, taking information, thinking, how does this work in my world? How does this work in my world? Because nobody knows what's right. It's the whole thing that you've brought to me about, like, what's true versus what's real. Everything is real, like a lot of those techniques will work, but like, what's right is down to each individual. What's right for you, at that particular time, because that can change as well. So it's like, it's having the openness. I think being open to anything changing at any time is the key to a life of joy, because otherwise we're actually confining ourselves within the construct of the world. And
if we're not careful, that becomes our conviction. We start to believe that this is the only way it can be. And that's a conviction. And that, what does that do? That limits you. And that crushes a part of you. Your imagination, your creativity, the belief, your dream, what's even possible.
And a lot of convictions.
And before you know it,
a lot of convictions live in control. They live in the world of control and trying to control the way that things are, like to protect what it is that I have, and you see it a lot in the hairspace, business owners, salon owners, barbershop owners who try to control the narrative through like shoving their convictions down people's throat about what they think is right, in order to protect what it is that they have, because they're not 100% morally and ethically sold on it, because if they were, they wouldn't worry about having to shove their opinions down people's throat. Something somewhere, there's a little fucking red, there's a little flasher going off. You know, the little light comes up in the car. You know, when the little light comes up in the car, people get that from time to time when it comes to their life, and they just choose to ignore it. It's like that meme that I shared the other day, you know, when the red light comes on in the car, or the car starts making a funny noise, so I just turn the music up louder. and that's what is happening.
It all comes back. It's just, again, back to beliefs. Like, I try and deep the thought process around the belief of what would happen if you started to dream a different way, or started to, you know, price your products a different way, or do things a different way. It's like, I think a lot of people, that the fear is exactly like you said, they're trying to protect what they have in their way they make a living. Chances are, you're going to be fine. Like, I haven't seen it go royally wrong for anyone yet.
I actually think you'll do better. I think people will do better just letting it be the way it is.
Yeah. Who's priced themselves out of their market yet and lost all their clients? Nobody. And why is that? Because once we understand supply and demand, okay, say you're in a town where everybody charges around £20 or $20, whatever, and you go up to £40, right? You just double it. Well, basic math, if you double your prices overnight, you can lose 50% of your clientele. Done. So you don't even have to worry. If you lose 50%, that's okay, because you're still making the same amount of money. Shock horror, genius. But the thought there is, I think the fear of a lot of people is, oh, well, where are all those clients going to go? Well, guess what? All the barbershops can't service everybody. They just can't. It's impossible. So you're going to keep what we've seen. We've seen it all throughout our careers. We see it with all of our coaching clients. 80% of the time, you just keep everybody anyway, because they realize, oh, well, if I go there, they're not going to get me in, or they don't do it the way that I like it done. So it makes sense just to stay with you anyway. And people find a way. It's not pulling the wool over anyone's eyes. It's not stealing from the poor. It's not taking people's last dime. It's like, no one's holding a gun to your head if you want a haircut. It's not a charity. It's a business. This is how we make a living. It's in the name, living. I live this way. It's a belief and a fear. It's a belief and a fear. And I think, you know, around the globe, there's this like audacity piece as well. It's like, oh, who do you think you are to charge that price? Well, then we've got to underpin all the beliefs and all the assumptions around that as well. My answer straight to that is like, well, why not? Why shouldn't I? You know, give me one good reason why I shouldn't. And then we can open up a great dialogue then, a conversation around why I shouldn't charge X amount of dollars. For somebody to say, oh, who do you think you are to do that? Or you shouldn't be doing that. It's okay, that's just an opinion. Give me 3 good reasons why not. And we can have a great dialogue. I think if a lot of people walked to earth with that mindset, we'd be in a much better position. Because what would you, but with awareness and with consciousness, you're never going to be pulling the wool over anyone's eyes. You're never going to be stealing from the poor, because that just doesn't fit within your purpose. And again, this has been a mind-blowing thing for me this week, thinking about getting your morals mixed up with your ethics. Ethically, what is ethical means anything that is related to how we survive, right? So ethically, it makes sense to do everything we can to set things up to live and survive comfortably. Not just enough, or just scraping by, or worrying about where the money's going to come for rent this week. Ethically, I think it's our birthright to be able to live on this planet we can live well. Morally, people say, oh yeah, but what about stealing from the poor? Oh yeah, but that's not fair. Okay, but what's more important? Is it more important on the ethics that we all survive and live well? Or is it more important about the moral of not stealing from the poor? Now, morally, I don't want to steal from the poor, so that doesn't even come into my mind when I set up my price point. I'm like, I'm not stealing from the poor. I'm trying to get my ethics in line. I'm trying to live well so I can serve well. And this is the danger of the world. People get their ethics and their morals mixed up. It's like with the whole vegan thing, right? I bought into that for a little while, many years ago, not killing animals. Okay, well, if the ethics of things, if you have to kill an animal to survive, then ethically, that's okay, because you have to do the things that enable you to survive and live well. But if you're just willy-nilly killing animals, yeah, that's morally wrong. But you see, ethics and morals are different. And it's very different. We need to be careful that we don't cross them over and confuse them for each other. I bet you I could go down the street right now and ask every single person, and they say, do you think it's right to steal from the poor? And they'd say no. Exactly. Because generally we're morally sound people. So to walk with the assumption that charging higher ticket prices for haircuts is not fair, or stealing from the poor, or people can't afford that. What? That's not the point. The point is we're trying to get our ethics in place so as barbers or hairdressers, hair professionals, whatever you want to call them, can make a living and live well. And I think that's where we can reshape mindset. And I'm going to love talking about that one in the UK and Europe. Because it's like, guys, okay, well, are you happy with just getting by? You know, what if everybody did this? Yeah, I use that filter as well. What if everybody just got by? It's not a great place to be, is it? We're all a bit down, we're all a bit glum, we're all a bit, we want a bit more. But what if everybody thought about unlimited possibilities? Everything is possible for me. We can all live well. We can all raise the vibration and raise the bar. Come from abundance. I think it's great. But that's not gonna land well with people that are stuck in a lack mindset. Oh, but you know, that's not fair for everybody, and not everybody can do that. No, I know. But what everybody can do is lead with an unlimited mindset. That's what they can do. Just because you lead with an unlimited mindset doesn't mean that you're going to get what you set out to get. It doesn't mean that. But it's being okay with that fact as well. Like, you and I have great dreams for our life. We have great dreams for our life. But I'm also understand that we may never get there, and that's okay. Doesn't mean I'm not going to try and do it, though. There's a part of me that delusionally believes anything is possible. Anything. One day, who knows, the greatest sports star in the world can say, oh, Leigh and Eoin, you got a coaching group. Can you coach me? That's great. There's part of my brain that thinks that's absolutely possible. And there's part of me that also understands that may never ever happen. And I'm okay with both. That's all right. Doesn't mean I'm not going to try, though. And that's huge. When we really peel back the mindset to that point, we've got to try. But we can disguise a lot of our, all that's unfair now, people like me can't do that. That disguises our inability to take responsibility of our lives. Because the guy that goes, there's a difference. There's a guy that sits back and goes, that's going to be tough. I'll give it a crack, though. Interesting. If I can pull that one off, really cool. And there's the other guy that says, nah, it's not possible around here. People don't charge that. I can't do that. One guy took responsibility. One guy didn't. And fell right back into the limitations of story and conditioning. One's empowering, one's not. Yeah, one's a little bit delusional, but hey, who knows? What if it goes completely right? Like Tony Robbins says, one of our coaches, or in our coaching group, the good and the bad is accessible equally at all times. And that's how I look at life. Success and failure is accessible equally at all times. It could go really, really bad, or it could equally go really, really right. Depends how you will look at it. And I think when we open that up on the world tour, that could change. That's industry changing shit. That's world changing shit. Like, just opening up the possibility to like an unlimited mindset of like, look at what we've done as humans so far. Look how far we've come. We've gone from, as you keep saying this week, we've gone from chimps collecting nuts in the forest, naked, to now, look at us. we're clothed, we've got technology, we're talking over the internet, there's like really fast cars, there's all sorts of crazy shit. Now we're getting to the AI, like, it's wild what we can do.
I'm in a part of the world right now that, like, and so are you, that like our ancestors didn't even know existed, you know? Didn't know that this existed. So, I mean, to not be open to like possibility is closing ourselves down to so much of the beauty in life. And it just doesn't need to be that way. It really doesn't. And like that's the main kind of theme that I want to get across when we go back. You know, we're spending a bit of time now. We had a conversation earlier about like what's the focus for the next couple of months, and you know, the focus for the next couple of months while we're doing this tour, I think, is to put our energy and eggs in the basket of that tour, and let everything else just take over as well. But you know, critical thinking is a skill, I would say, and we can retrain ourselves to think critically, because I think once the penny drops, and I see it in our courses all the time, there's moments where pennies are dropping because quite often there's no response and blank looks on faces. Me and you might be laughing and smiling about something and everyone else is just blank faced. And it's like, yeah, it's penny dropping moments. Like we had a couple of them yesterday, even on our coaching call, like one of our coaching calls yesterday afternoon, I could see penny dropping moments. It's almost like reactionless stuff because it's questioning the way that we see things up to now. And, you know, I got asked a question when we were in Jakarta last week around like, what keeps me kind of passionate about doing what I'm doing? Like what keeps me like excited, motivated, passionate about like doing what it is that we do. And for me, it's the limiting beliefs thing. You know, for me, I see so many people out there with limiting beliefs putting themselves in their own prison, may as well be in jail the way they're living their lives. And it can be fixed. It can be adjusted. It can be tweaked. Quite often, like when I spoke about in that email that I shared about Matt's results getting 100k extra in his business last year from working with us. All that was looking over what was currently going on in his life, overviewing it, looking in to his world for 10 minutes and just going, you know what, maybe we'll just turn this dial up a little bit and maybe we'll turn that one down and we'll move this stuff around a little bit and then we'll just adjust this, improve this, and then boom, off to the races. You know, the guy's a different human being, living a different life, and he has that forever now. It's not like a thing that he just gets one time and he has to replace it again.
Well, because he's seen a different reality now. He's seen a different possibility. And, you know, something I was going to say on what we just kind of riffed on was, like, I have compassion for all of this, especially on the critical thinking piece. Like, we're not taught that at school. You know, it's not a common thing to be taught how to critically think and question things. That's beaten out of us at a young age. Don't question things, just do what you're told, you know, because the opposite of that is critical thinking. Critical thinking is just questioning everything. Is this still the right thing? Is this the best way? Can we do it differently? What if I did it this way? That's critical thinking. I have absolute compassion for that because, again, we're not taught. But the big thing, and like you just alluded to there, what's like a tangible thing that we can do is change the diet. And what do I mean by that? Change your environment, change the people you hang around, change the information that you listen to, change the information that you're reading, change your diet. Because everything that goes in, much like food, everything that goes in creates who we are. And if we are only getting stories and limiting beliefs from people that don't also believe the same and don't believe anything else is possible, guess what? Nothing's going to change for us. So the first tangible thing is change your environment, change the things that you listen to, you look at, you read. And once you do that, you can start to see the world in a different place. But again, that takes responsibility. You got to want to take responsibility for your life, because it's easy. And this isn't going to sit well with a lot of people, but it's easy just to go along with the narrative that everybody else has. It's easy just to go, well, people in my area don't do that. Well, it's easy to say. I can say that too. Nah, people don't want coaching, can't afford it. Nah, maybe it's not possible then. You know, or that's I could say that, but that's easy. It's easy to say. Or we could take the road less travelled, and we can say, no, anything's possible. Let's give this a crack. And listen to people that have already done it. And they go, yes, it is possible, guys. Let me show you how. Let me show you. Here's some things that you're not seeing. Here's some things that you don't know. Like,
where there's will,
okay.
Where there's will, where we're willing to put in a little bit of effort to just think for a minute. Where there's will, there's a way.
I just take some responsibility. Like, I don't know who said it lately, but like, no one's going to come and save you. No one's going to do it for you.
Probably me, was it?
Like, you got to take responsibility.
That's probably me who said that recently.
Yeah, but no one's going to save you. And
it was
take
a podcast with Josh
for your own
speaking
life.
about that with him. It's like, that was a big theme there. It's like, nobody's coming to do it for you. Like, you got to do it yourself. And unfortunately, for a lot of people, it takes them to get burned in the fire before they realise that the fire is hot, and that can be avoided. Like the clever person, like, well, and look, I'm not going to put myself in the category of a clever person, but I think the way that I've approached my life in business has been very clever, because I've avoided a lot of the guessing. I know people who are in business a lot longer than me, and they still don't know what they're doing. Still really don't have a clue, and will remain there because they're stuck in a fixed mindset, not a growth mindset. They're stuck in a lack mindset. They don't have an abundant mindset. They're stuck in a limited mindset, and they don't have an unlimited mindset.
And it's like, Uncle Warren Buffett, he said it many, 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 many years ago. Humans learn from mistakes, but they don't have to be your mistakes. You don't have to touch the fire to know that it's hot. Just ask the guy that touched it. Was that hot? Did it hurt? Yep. Well, I'm not going to do it then. Cool. And we move through. Like, that is what I see happens in a lot of industries, and even ours in the hair world. Everyone just thinks they have to touch the fire to know. Everyone's just trying to touch the fire. Staying there, getting burnt. Oh, ow, ow, ow. It's like, guys, humans learn from mistakes, but they don't have to be yours.
Ultimately, though,
look around.
It all comes back. It all circles back all the way around to beliefs. It's like we're just big walking belief systems. It's walking narratives, walking stories, and like, not sometimes we don't realize that the story can be rewritten. Just because something's printed on one page doesn't mean we can't reprint it, or use Tipex. Like, go over the page, like, write yourself a new story.
And maybe that's one of, yours and my bias, is that I was just fortunate that I was told that as a kid. Not necessarily in terms of work, but in terms of sport. I wasn't told, nah, you can't be the best. I was told, yeah, if you want to, and you apply yourself, and you take responsibility, and you train hard, and you do all the things, you can be the best, or one of the best. I was told that from an early age, and I've just always carried that mindset with me. It's like, no, I'm going to be expansive about this. Because again, I could have fallen into the trap. I live in a smaller city in the UK. All the guys that were getting picked for like the England team and all these stuff, they lived in the more affluent places, and the places that were closer to the national training centres and all those things. They were all the guys that could just get there easy, and their parents could pay for them and all that stuff. Even though that wasn't our situation, the mindset was still, if you want to, you can do this. You just got to take some responsibility. And that is where it comes back full circle about getting good at the thing. It still pays to get good, because being really fucking good can outweigh all of the other shit as well. So if you're the guy, and you don't live close, it's like a great haircut, right? Or anyone at sport. But if you're the guy Maybe you don't live close to a national training centre. Maybe your parents can't pay for you to get there. All of that stuff. It's just not easy for you to do it. Come from a low socioeconomic background, whatever the story is. But you turn up and you dominate 9 out of 10 players. They're going to go, who the fuck is that? Who is that guy? We need that guy. It's the same in here.
It's the same everywhere.
You turn up, they're going to go, who's that? Like, what's different about you?
What's blown my mind over the years is like, you know, people growing up in cities in Australia and not having a clientele. I'm just like, how is that possible?
How is it possible?
I'm lost. Like, I just don't understand. But then there's so many reasons as to like why I know that that's the reality as well, because of comfort. And you know, look at Cristiano Ronaldo. He's from Madeira, an island off Portugal. He's not from one of the big cities. He's from an island. You know, he's the best football player to ever grace the planet. So it's not about location. That can be your excuse. Don't make it your excuse. Make it your story. And it's, you know, it's easy. It's easy to just blame and to lose. It's actually easy to lose. Like, we can just be like, yeah, like this isn't for you. If you don't want to have a life of freedom, if you don't want to have a life of at least being able to do what you want, of comfort, this isn't for you.
And I think what holds a lot of people back is just that fear of like, oh, what if it doesn't work? Well, that's everything in life. You know, say someone's like, I want to charge £60 for a haircut. Oh, but what if it doesn't work? Well, that's everything in life. Like, you get married, might not work. You know, you start cutting hair, you might not get any clients. You might never be booked. Like, that's just everything in life. The faster we can be okay with like not knowing what's going to happen, the better. And it's amazing what happens when you just believe that you can. The universe is always in a place of yes, always. Whether you believe you can or you believe you can, you're right both times. It's amazing what happens when you believe you can, and you just get okay with not knowing what's going to happen. Now, that doesn't mean you just piss everything into the wind, obviously, but then it's about making calculated decisions then. Still believing that you can, but making calculated decisions. That's when life gets powerful. That's when life gets fun. That's when life gets conscious choice. We have awareness around what we're doing. We're using feedback. We're using metrics. Right. But just laying back and just letting the whole world just dictate how things go for you, that's none of those things. It's quite the opposite. And it's easy to do that. But again, stories, conditioning. What's our relationship with struggle? What's our relationship with doing hard things? You know, is the fact that it might not happen enough to make you not do it? That's the question. Because if you say yes to that, then you might as well just stop doing everything in your whole life. Because nobody knows what the hell is going to happen in anything. So that whole fear of like, oh, but what if it's not me? Oh, but what if I can't do it? But oh, what if I never get there? Okay, just stop doing everything then, because that's also a possibility with everything that we ever do in life. Is that enough to stop you from doing it? It says a lot about character. Can you do hard things? Of course I can. Do you have grit? Of course I can. Do you have courage? Of course I do. Okay, let's go then. Like, it's the defining characteristics. Like, what's it going to be?
It's reconditioning. You know, we need to recondition our belief systems, because the belief systems that most people currently have aren't actually doing them any justice, unfortunately. And, you know, we're such unlimited human beings, all of us. We all have the same opportunities, same possibilities. You know, nobody physiologically is that different to anybody else. Like, we all have somewhat equal opportunity. You know, of course, you come to third world countries like we're in, right? Like I'm in right now. It's like it's different. You know, it's very, very different. But they make the most of what they have as well. They're not sitting around moping. They don't have a choice. They get on with it, and they get creative. And some of the stuff that's happening here in terms of like delivery services and the way that they actually serve the people who are here willing to spend money is genius. There's stuff happening here that isn't happening in first world countries because it doesn't have to happen, because life's too comfortable. And it's happening here because people have to get creative in order to survive.
Yep. It's amazing. And that, if anything, brings the best or more things out of humans than comfort. Because, again, what are the people doing where you are? They're probably exercising critical thinking a bit more. Oh, what if I do it like this? What if I do it like this? It's exercising that creativity, what's possible. And the reason I also believe that there's more to this whole thing, and much, much more is possible for the hair world. That's why I believe Henry is going to go to $500. You heard it here first. I reckon he's going to get there. We don't even know what's possible for ourselves yet. Like, what we understand about the brain. See, most people think it's like we understand like 90% of what goes on in this world. It's the opposite. We only know about 10%. We can't see 90% of colours. We can't hear 90% of sound. We don't know what 90% of the brain does. We can't work out 90% of the body's systems and processes. It's an unreplicable system. Like, even the greatest scientists on the planet can't replicate the human body. Like, there's so much more. There's so much more. Now, the aim of the game isn't just to get more for the sake of having more. The aim is for possibility. And are other things possible? And could we build a beautiful, more joyous life? Now, that's what I'm here for, the exploration of that. I think we're wired for the quest. We're wired for the exploration. To me, life just gets boring else, you know? But there is also zen in being okay with boring. I'm also okay if this is all I ever do for the rest of my life. If I just sit here in my office and do things like this on my laptop for the rest of my life, that's okay, because there's acceptance and zen and tranquility and a path to enlightenment in there as well. How okay can I be with not knowing? But that's not good. Doesn't mean I'm not going to try. And that's it. That's the difference. I think that's what's going to set people apart. Something as creative and as made up and as constructural as hair, possibilities are endless.
Really? I agree. And yeah, I agree. I can't disagree with any of that. And it's just bizarre, isn't it? Like, to me, it's bizarre that people wouldn't want to be unlimited, that they wouldn't want to have choice, because what comes with being unlimited? A life without limitations, to a degree, you know, we have some limitations. Like, I'm not going to be able to fly, and I'm not going to try and fly. You know, I think we need to be somewhat realistic in a sense too, where we're not like idiotic. You know, I can't just be like, you know what, life is so unlimited, I'm going to go up on that roof today and I'm going to jump off and just hope that I'll fly. There's a difference between being unlimited and having like unrealistic hope. Now, for me, to be able to wake up every day, for the most part, and the only limitations that I have are the ones that I've created, is a great place to live. It's a great place to be. But it can always be optimized for more. It can always be optimized for better. Not necessarily more, but better.
And just different. Like, well, that's the fun bit of life right now. Is like, we're just doing things differently. Like, to optimize for joy. To like, like exactly what you're saying. We're trying to find different ways to do things to optimize 100%. For joy.
I met this girl yesterday here that we know from Melbourne. So we just went into a cafe, bumped into her randomly, and her and Hannah were having a conversation. So Hannah knows her more than I do, and she was just chatting about like what she's up to and different stuff like that. And something came up about her business and where she wants to take things and what she wants to do with her business. She's like, I'm unsure whether to create a brand or to just do it under like my personal name. And I just went like this. It's like, you know, can I, that was my permission piece. I was like, can I say something about this, please? And I was like, build build it personally, build a personal brand. Go down the personal brand avenue instead of the business brand, because number one, you're in a flooded market when you build a business brand. Everyone's trying to do the nice aesthetic and the nice, like, make it look a certain way. And the business brands don't last, but personal brands do. And you're always going to be yourself. What if, I said to her, what if something changes? What if you want to change something? You know, then what? You just have this nice business brand and nobody knows the face behind it. Like, we buy into people. So, like, even in that, even in the decision, and a lot of the time people don't want to put their face to a brand or put themselves to a brand, because again, it comes back to belief systems. There's not enough belief in themselves to know that that's enough, that that's okay, to just have your brand and your face on it. And it's wild. It's a wild old world we live in, Leigh. You know, and I'm looking forward to going back and just really testing the parameters, like really pushing the boundaries, you know, challenging convention. I was watching one of our shows yesterday or a couple of days ago, you know, from years and years ago, and it's like, even then we're talking about challenging convention, challenging the conventional ways that things have been done, and we're still doing it. And, you know, like what Rick Rubin said on Aubrey Marcus's podcast there, it's like, if there's not a divide, if people don't hate what you're saying and what you're doing, then you're not probably doing something great. You're just caught up in the average as well. So I think we need to quieten the noise. You know, if as humans, if we really want to get to an unlimited place for ourselves, we need to quieten the noise, because we can get caught up sometimes. I find myself in holes sometimes, getting caught up in watching what other people are doing, and it just really pulls me off center. You know, it pulls me off the center of what we're doing. And sometimes I have to remind myself, like, that what they're doing has got nothing to do with what I'm doing. Like, and we appeal to different audiences. And it might be, and I might come across it and see it on an Instagram page, or, you know, my patterns and my beliefs from the past come up still and challenge me. Oh, do you still believe this? It's like a little notification. No, do you still believe you have to please everybody? And it's like, no, I don't. And then I just swipe it away. It's like, no, all right, quiet the noise. Back to game time. So the Unlimited World Tour, coming to a city near you. See, first I'm pretty sure we're going to be in Manchester first. And then we're going to be in London, and we're going to be in Dublin. We're also going to be in Amsterdam in between. Well, we're doing London a couple of times, you know, because the Barber Bash as well. So, like, you know, we're doing our course in a couple of the cities, but we're also doing like different shows around the world as well. So, like, we've got Amsterdam. We're organising at the moment a 3-day course in Barcelona, which can be pretty cool for people in Europe and the UK and Ireland if they want to do something a little bit more exotic, and, you know, you want an expensed holiday / life-changing experience. That's where to do it, in Barcelona. And we're going to be making a little bit of noise about it in the next little while, so keep an eye out. And if you want your world rocked, you want your world changed, you want to start, you know, getting more. It's not all about making more money. You know, money, somebody said to me last week, one of the guys who follows us closely, and he's like, I see what you guys are really doing. It's like, money is the hook, but that's not what you mean. You know, if you get behind the words, it really means like unlimited life. It really means like being able to live life on your terms, have choice, have freedom, whatever that looks like to you. So, you know, I'm glad that there's a couple of people out there that are seeing it beyond the objective nature of what we're saying, and that's the beauty of it. Like, you know, that will cut through, and it will get to the people that we need it to get to, and then those people will come into our world, and we'll help them change their worlds, like we did with Matt, like we've done with, you know, multiple clients of ours in AMP. You know, I had to run the numbers multiple times yesterday with Matt to just make sure that was fucking real. I was like, I was like, that's the best investment anybody could ever make. That is literally the best investment. Like, it's almost a bit like unbelievable. Like, we sent it out an email this morning. I haven't got much response yet because it almost seems like to lie, because it's obviously too good. He obviously had to do, you know, plenty of work to get to that point, and yeah, he stayed in the program, so he spent more than the 5k. But let's just say he spent 20k over the year to be getting coached. He still made 5 times, like, or 4 times that. So it's another great episode of Unlimited. Some good stuff in there for you guys to think about it. I think to wrap it up today is just to remind ourselves of the unlimited nature of life, and to just keep questioning things. You know, we speak about it all the time. You know, challenge convention. You know, just falling into the common trap of doing what everyone else is doing. You know, sharing the consultation videos, and, you know, putting up fucking videos of you cleaning in the shop, and like, oh, I don't know, all of the stuff that everybody else is doing, they're already doing it. Like, start bringing a bit more of you through the page. Start bringing what feels good for you, and bring that through on your social media if you really want to, like, start creating a life that feels good, and one that you're living for you, not living for everybody else's validation. I better stop now before I say something that I regret. So until next week, peace out.